So a few weeks ago, my wife and I were out with friends at dinner, and one of their kids was telling us about their career. She had just graduated, and so she was looking and hoping to enter a new career, a new business career. And she had to get a new internship because the internship would lead to potentially a job in an industry that she really wants to get into. And so the first few minutes of the conversation, I listened, tried to get as much data as possible. And then I asked her openly in front of everyone, what would happen if you don't get the internship? What would happen if you don't get the job? And when I asked that question, the whole table went quiet and everyone looked at me. And my friend's daughter was almost panicked and said, no, I have to get the internship. You don't understand, Matthias. If I don't get it, my life's over. I can never get into this industry. And so I leaned into it again and I said, what happens? What would happen if you actually don't get the internship and you never get into the industry ever? And so my wife knows my thinking process and what I'll be sharing in this video because we talk about it a lot. But for the table and for my friend's daughter, it was shocking because she had never even considered the idea of her project, right? Her dream not working out. And so after a few minutes of talking about the whole concept of detachment, which is the theme of this video today, she really understood it and it actually opened her mind a bit. So I want to give you that because if you understand detachment and you start practicing detachment, it can completely change your life. The main concept is you need to be okay not being accepted, not being understood, not being successful at the thing you want the most in life. And so you need to accept the possibility that the thing you want today, the thing you want the most right now, might never happen. And from experience, it's a mindfuck because it's happened to me several times throughout my life that the less I care about the thing, the better I do. It's very strange. And it's not some type of woo-woo energy thing. I've seen it happen. The more I detach from what I really want and the goal I had at the beginning before starting a venture, the more successful the venture is. It's very strange. And so you need to cultivate a mix of being obsessed by being the best company, by being the best athlete, by being the most focused operator, entrepreneur, investor, whatever you're doing at the moment, yet at the same time being completely detached by the outcome that what you're doing might or might not generate for you. And you need to remove yourself from the expectation of the end result that you want to reach. It's very strange, but it's very important to practice detachment because things will never feel and will never turn out the way you think they will. And there's a great quote by John Lennon that says, life is what happens to you when you're busy making other plans. You can have your big goals. You can have full clarity on what you want to do, but life will happen to you. You'll get injured, things will happen, you'll have to react, you'll have to adapt the plan. And so you need to be ready to adapt as you go. You know, and I've lived it and I've seen it so many times. Oh, you know, when I buy this car, I'll be super happy. When I buy this house, I'll be super happy. When I hit this number, I'll be happy. The truth is, it never feels the way you think it will feel. And so here's the key. You cannot build your identity around the things you don't control. I'll say it again. You cannot build your identity around the things you do not control because you're bound for disappointment otherwise. In business, I see it all the time. You plan something, you put together a good business plan, you invest, you build teams, you come up with a new product launch, and it never turns out the way you thought it would. Things happen. Someone poaches your best employee. The competition steals your idea. Your business partner steals money. Whatever the case may be, there's always going to be surprises along the way. And so even though I have always had big goals in my business career or even before that, when I was training to become a professional athlete, my goal was to become a professional athlete. I wanted to be a pro tennis player and be part of the top 50 in the world. That's always a pretty big and ambitious goal. And so yes, even though you have to work hard and do everything right and focus, you have to be okay if it doesn't happen and if it never happens. And this will happen in your day-to-day life. It'll happen with your friends. It'll happen with your health. It'll happen in your private and personal relationships. And I'll give you a very concrete example that illustrates this whole idea of not attaching your identity to what it is you do. In 2019, I spent over $500,000 opening a physical office in London with dozens of employees. And I shut it down only a few months later. Why? Because it just didn't resonate with my idea of entrepreneurship. I became an entrepreneur over 15 years ago to be free, to do whatever I want. If I open an office, it needs to bring so much value to the businesses we have, the revenue we're generating, and if there's not a huge tangible upside to that, it makes no sense for me to have a physical office. And so a few months in, I shut everything down because it just didn't bring enough value to the revenues we were generating and to the lifestyle that I was living on a day-to-day basis. And so one of the biggest mistakes I see people make in business is going down and sinking with the ship. It's fine to stop things and to pivot. And so what's interesting about the story is a few months later, after we shut everything down, COVID happened. So imagine having to carry dozens of full-time employees and physical space in central London when everything was locked down. It would have been a nightmare. So I was very lucky on that one. But again, the reason why I was able to flip the switch and open an office and then close it very quickly was because I have no problem detaching from something that doesn't really resonate with me. And so it's fine to try things. You need to try things. The office for me was also something that I thought would bring more value. I've had several offices over the last 15 years, but it's never really translated into real tangible upside for my company. So we tried it, we did it, we invested a lot of money in it, but then you need to be able to detach from that and not go down with the ship. And you need to develop that superpower. Detachment is a superpower. Doing everything you can to make it a success, but also be perfectly fine if it doesn't happen, and trusting that you can pivot and find something else if what you really wanted did not happen. So learn to detach. Learn to detach. Learn to work as hard as you can. Focus as much as you can. Do as much as you can to get to the goals you want, but also remember that it's perfectly okay to walk away and try something else and do something else, because it's a big world, there's a lot of opportunities, and there's a lot of ways for you to succeed outside of what you're doing right now. Practice detachment.